first and foremost, want to thank everybody for being on the call today and giving us an opportunity to talk about an exciting matchup here. And, I think I speak for, our entire program. The hospitality has been unbelievable, and we're all very excited to be here at the Fiesta Bowl and represent our university and represent such a storied game. And obviously against a great opponent in Oklahoma State. We're fortunate to be here, and we're looking forward to the week ahead and the game Saturday. So with that, I'll open it up for any questions.
Yeah, Tommy, this is Barry Trammell with the Oklahoman. Of course, you've been involved with the Irish as a coach and a player. I know Brian Kelly's not necessarily a popular figure these days around South Bend, but it seemed like in the last 10 or 12 years, he and his staff and players have sort of revived Notre Dame football. You guys have been national contenders several times. What's been the process to get Notre Dame football back to the level where you obviously believe it should be?
Yeah, I'll start off by saying I still think Coach Kelly's pretty popular and held in high regard, and a lot of people that are part of this program and people that he's impacted, myself included, played for him. He hired me back here as a young coach, promoted me as a young coach. I know there's a lot of other individuals within our program that have been here that share that sentiment towards Coach, and there's really no ill will towards him throughout this entire change and process. I think what Coach did over his time at Notre Dame needs to be respected in the way that it is. And look, he built this program back up. He had, 2 playoff appearances, a BCS championship appearance, undefeated seasons. But past all of that, he built the culture into a place where it's really strong. And he built the culture into a place where it's strong to the point where, we felt like we can seamlessly get into this transition because, there's a very strong culture already laid down. And, I believe Coach is going to do the same thing down in Baton Rouge, and, we wish him nothing but the best.
Let's go to Pete Sampson.
Tommy, I think when this game was announced, there was a chance for you guys to sort of stress test the offense, going back to Cincinnati, Wisconsin early in the year. Now that, 2 freshman tackles, no Kyron Williams, has that perspective changed anymore? And I guess, what are you hoping to learn most about the offense against Oklahoma State?
Yeah, the perspective hasn't changed. Our goals are still our goals. We want to go out there and put together a good performance. We've had a next man in mentality all year. So I think it's fitting here down the stretch that we're, faced with more challenges. But we have a ton of belief in the guys that are here to play. We have a ton of belief in Chris, in Logan, in Audric to go out there and represent that room and our level of play to a high level. We have a ton of belief in our young offensive linemen. We're excited as heck to see, others contribute and fill in for Josh. And obviously you never want to see something like that happen, especially to a veteran, but it gives more opportunities to go play at a high level. And look, we know how talented they are on defense, and we got to put our players in a position to be successful. And that's what we aim to do. And I know we have a lot of guys that are extremely hungry to go get after it and play this game.
Let's go to Patrick Engel.
Hey, Tommy, just now kind of looking back on what Jack has been able to do over 12 games and then this kind of being his last shot. I'm curious how you kind of look at that now that you've seen what he did over the regular season versus kind of what you guys were expecting and kind of looking for when you wanted a grad transfer quarterback to potentially come in and start this year.
Well, he's standing about 7 feet from me right now. So I think everything that we thought we were getting in Jack, we underestimated. I think he was more than we thought we were getting. I think from an intangible standpoint and a personality standpoint, leadership, like being the guy in the room, being the guy in front of the offense, that was all more than we anticipated. From a physical standpoint, I said it from the first practice we had with him, like he's physically more gifted than he was advertised. His ability to make all the throws, his ability to stand firm in the pocket, his mental capacity to play this position is as high as anyone in the country. I think he's been extremely underrated throughout this entire season. And I think when you look at the last 6 or 7 games of the year, his production, his completion percentage, his ratios from touchdown interceptions, his ability to get us into good plays, like he's going to make a roster next year in the NFL. And I have no doubt about it. And I think us as a program are very fortunate to have him come through. I said it a couple of weeks ago, like our biggest regret is that we only get 1 year with him because he represents what Notre Dame's about and he represents our room in as positive a way as possible.
Our next question is from Tyler James.
Hey, Tommy, I'm curious, with Oklahoma State having so much time to game plan, some sort of scheme to try and prevent you getting the ball from Michael Mayer, what kind of challenges that in sort of being creative to get ways to get him open?
Yeah, they've shown it throughout the year. They've played other good individuals. The kid from Iowa State, they had some things on third down to double him. So that's clearly part of what they do. I think the biggest focus for them will probably be third down. How do we get a couple, people around him on third down? The kid at Iowa State, they literally put 2 guys on him and said, hey, we're going to take him away. And, you saw that if you watched the NFL, that you saw that against the Packers a couple of weeks ago. And, clearly third down, critical downs, maybe red zone, that will be part of what they want to do. There's a lot of unknowns right now with their defense, obviously with the change in coordinator and extra time to prepare on what they want to do. We got to be multiple in how we use Michael and make sure that we don't become stagnant with where we want to play him and find ways to create opportunities. And look, if they want to double him, that usually means we got a favorable matchup somewhere else. And so we got to make sure that we're seeing that and adjusting to it.
Let's go over to Len Clark.
Tommy, can you talk about the dynamic of being the offensive coordinator for this particular game as opposed to preparing for previous games? And then secondly, what is the point of emphasis and practices for the offense this week?
Yeah, I don't feel a whole lot different. I think we still are going through our same process of making sure that as a staff, we're all on the same page, making sure that our players understand what we're trying to accomplish, making sure that they're prepared to go win a football game. I think for this game, it starts, controlling the line of scrimmage, both run and pass, doing a good job protecting the quarterback and giving our running backs an opportunity to get to the second and third levels. They're extremely talented. They're good up front. They have some depth. So, for me, this game starts in the trenches, and that's not just the line. It's the tight ends, it's the quarterbacks making sure that we're in the right protections and right calls. It's the running backs chipping in. So that takes a collective group to make sure that we're able to protect and run the football. The wideouts have to get open and they have to block for the quarterback or block for the running backs as well. So when you talk about winning at the front and winning at the line of scrimmage, it really comes down to all 11 of us, being on the same page.
Robert Allen.
Yeah, Coach, two questions. One, they had 2 losses. You've got 13 games to look at. What did you learn from maybe the Iowa State? You kind of hit on that a little bit with the tight end situation with Kolar, and then the Baylor game. And then the other aspect, their defense, how multiple it is, but how much of an X factor it is as far as who's calling the shots and how that changes things on any defense you face.
Yeah. First off, I think you look at the Iowa State game, and they hit a couple chunk plays. That was probably the difference in the game. They hit a couple big throws and, got down into plus territory and were able to finish that. And that's probably a difference in the game. I thought Baylor, they had a couple turnovers defensively that put them in good field position and they were able to execute and had a really good plan on where they wanted to attack. The unknown of the coordinator spot, when you have 13 games, that's the only thing you have to look back on. And, as a coach on a staff, I was in a similar situation a couple of years ago. You have an opportunity to call it after being a position coach. You're not going to deviate too much from who you are, for the players, right? Like you don't want to start putting too much different in there because you want your players to still be able to go out and execute at a high level. So, when we look at it, we want to make sure that we're preparing for what they've shown and their tendencies. If something pops up in game, I feel like one of our strengths is being able to adjust second half and figure out what teams are trying to do to us and adjust to that. So, we'll adjust accordingly, but all we have to go off of are the 13 games and, we got to trust that we're putting our players in the right positions.
Garen Emig.
Yeah, Coach, Notre Dame's football brand is self-explanatory and well established. I'm wondering what you think of when you think of Oklahoma State's football brand. Does any one or anything come to mind?
Yeah, I think they've, the tradition of winning there has been I mean, I don't know if there's 8 to 10 schools over the last 15 years that have won more consistently than they have. You know, obviously Coach Gundy's been there a long time and has done a great job. And like I grew up watching really great Oklahoma State football teams, right? Like I grew up watching teams that were competing in the BCS year in and year out. You know, obviously very talented on offense in that era with the quarterback play and the receivers. It's been cool to see them, you know, shift and become this defensive team, right? Like I've always incorporated Oklahoma State with high-powered offense, and to see them finding ways to win under the same regime, but doing it on the other side of the ball as their main focus, that just shows the culture they have. That shows the commitment to winning standard they have. And to me, you know, like I said, you probably don't get past 8 teams before you say, okay, over the last 20 years, this is who has the highest winning percentage. I mean, they've done a great job year in and year out, finding ways to be competitive and finding ways to give themselves opportunities for double-digit season wins.
Next up is Aiden Thomas.
Hey, Tommy. So I just wanted to ask a little bit about prepping. You know, this is kind of your first experience prepping for a game under maybe a much more defensive-minded coach. What has Marcus's involvement been in the offensive game prep, and how has been kind of working with some of the coaching changes on that side of the ball, Ben?
Yeah, everything's been very smooth. You know, I think one of the things Coach Freeman does from the top down is he gets everybody on the same page, right? Like we meet as a staff every day now to make sure that we're all communicating, that we're all on the same page. You know, highlighting points of emphasis, highlighting different periods of practice, what we're trying to accomplish. You know, from that standpoint, I feel like we're very much aligned. You know, as far as like the X's and O's and those things, like it's not as much of his focus right now. You know, I think he trusts what we're doing and what we're trying to accomplish. You know, we've had some conversations about some different looks and things that we want to get done. But, you know, for the most part, it really starts in those meetings of saying, hey, from the top down, let's be aligned. And then once we get into the flow of things, hey, Tommy, you got it. And, you know, I trust you, which, you know, as a coordinator working for him, you know, that belief and trust goes a long way.
Let's go to Tyler Horka.
Hey, Tommy, I'm just curious what you saw in Logan Diggs throughout the season, that when obviously Chris Tyree went down, he was in a position to become that number 2 guy behind Kyron. And now that Kyron has declared for the draft, he's kind of in a 1A, 1B type role with Chris Tyree. So just over the course of his true freshman season, what were the like telltale signs that you saw that he's ready for this big moment?
Yeah, I think you go back to the Virginia Tech game, right? Our season's on the line. Chris and Kai are both out, and, you know, Logan's in there, game on the line, 2-minute drives, protection, you know, receiver out of the backfield. You know, he was able to step into that moment and really own it. And, you know, from there, I thought you saw week to week his game improve. I mean, there's a maturity and patience to his game, you know, like his ability to see things, react, you know, keep things vertical and front side when he needs to, you know, not afraid to find the backside cut for a home run. We saw that early in camp. And so we saw week to week his preparation leading him to an opportunity to play. And, you know, we're excited for him and Chris to get this opportunity to go play extended number of snaps. And then, you know, same thing for Audric. He's gonna have an opportunity to make an impact. And, you know, you saw him, you know, play well in some limited snaps down the stretch here. And, you know, we want to see that, you know, moving forward with, you know, the first group and going against the first defense.
Our last question for Coach Rees will be from Mike Hutton.
Hi, Tommy.
Hi.
How does this defense stack up with Cincinnati and Wisconsin's defense, and, you know, 2 pretty good defenses that you played in the past? And what did you learn from those games, and that you can use, you know, on Saturday?
Yeah, they're similar to both. I think they're almost a combination of the two, whereas they have the stout front that Wisconsin does, right? They have the veteran presence. They have the 2 real good inside linebackers. You know, they're strong and they're aggressive at the point of attack, similar to Wisconsin. And then they're very multiple, like Cincinnati was, right? You'll get 3 down, 4 down, 3 high safety, movement all over the place. So it's almost a blend of the two, which presents a lot of challenges in itself. You know, I think, you know, we've grown a lot since that part of the season. You know, we've learned how to combat some of those pressures and fronts and ability to, you know, react at the quarterback position and ability to get us into the right play, get the ball out, you know, on time is something that we've stressed throughout the season. You know, we've learned who we are, you know, through that stretch. We felt like we've improved at a lot of spots. That's led to the success down the stretch. So it's a great challenge that we're excited for. You know, definitely be, you know, something that gives us a little bit of a measuring stick for how far we've come. But you know, we have a ton of belief in our guys, and you know, we talk a lot about, you know, their defense and them being a great defense, which they are. But you know, I tend to think we have great players on our side of the ball too. So I'm excited to see the matchup. I'm excited to see the challenge that presents itself.